So we are now going to look at making a website that is made out of columns. And I already made two versions here, one with a system of 6 and then one with a system of 4. And I'm going to explain to you how I made these, what I used. I used the Wix strips actually, instead of just placing columns side by side. So you can do this. You can do this on the internet. However, there's one thing that you have to be careful of, which is that the text area, this area here, so where the column ends and then the next one starts, has to be pretty much visible all at once. Now I have a very big browser here, obviously, but even if I make this smaller, so let's do that. So let's say I have something which is more like this. I can still see all of this more or less at the same time. So I can start reading here, go down here, and then come back up here and continue reading. I don't have to scroll in order to be able to read the rest of this text. I can see all of it all at once. So that's the one thing that you need to be super duper aware of when you are thinking about making a website that consists of columns. People should not have to scroll to read your content. It should all be contained in one area. But once you pay attention to that, then there's absolutely no reason why not to do this. And Wix has a very, very good way of doing this, which is different from just placing pieces of text side by side into one area. You actually place them inside columns, which you so let me just go here and show you right away what I mean. So I made a special little new page to be able to show you this. So I have a strip here, okay? Now if I click on layout, I can add a column. So now I have two columns, and then each column actually has a system where you can align your text to the content that you want to be visible at all times, to the left or the center or the right. So on this one here, I'm going to align it to the left, which is what I did in that thing that I was just showing you, and then do the same thing here and align it to the right. So now if we go to the actual page here, so this big empty area is where this video that I'm making just now is actually going to appear inside. So we have the same thing here. We have a a strip, a column. This is the second column, and then this is the first column. And then when I look at this here, it's aligned to the right, and that's where the text is. And then if I look at this here, it's aligned to the left, and that's where the text is. So now, an advantage to doing this like this, instead of just having a regular page with just a regular page background or just one strip that you put everything inside without breaking it up, is that it actually makes your site sort of responsive. So now I want to show you what I mean by that. So when I have this open on a big browser, like so, then I'm seeing this all the way on the left here, and then this here, and then this here. Now when I narrow this down, what actually happens is I still see everything all at once. So as you can see, so I need to actually come all the way here. This is 1024. Now I see this was all the way on the left. It's still here. I can still see it. This was in the middle. This was in the middle, this was in the middle, and if I jump back out, then I see all of these images, which I don't see when I make it narrower, but I see the text. I see all of the informational content, and that sort of makes this system responsive. It's not really responsive. I mean, it's just, let's do this again here. So if I make it small, then I see all the text. Then if I go wider, then I start seeing the images, and they're also getting bigger and smaller because they're actually embedded inside the column as a background. And if I scroll down like this, I can see everything. And then if I get narrower, as you can see, the text is moving in now. and I can still see all of it. And that's the very nice part about doing a website that you are going to be doing with columns in this way. So now let me just come back to here. Now the way that I put the images is I actually put them in as background images. Okay, and I have another one here, which is this one right here. I also added scroll effects to this. I have parallax scrolls, and then the white areas that you see here are actually just container boxes. So I made big white container boxes that I put inside the strips, aligned them very exactly. Then I put all of the text inside these container boxes, which are sitting on top of the images, and this is the other one, which is doing the same thing. And then when we come down here, this text is directly on the image, but then this here, again, it's a container box, which is placed upon the image. So if I move it over like this, then you will be able to see what I'm talking about. And then I also made other ones, black ones. Again, these are container boxes. Again, this is a container box, and all of these are background images. And when you do it like this, now obviously I have also added some images, so I have one here which is a separate image, but when you do it like this, you also get all of the nice scroll effects that you get with strip backgrounds. Now, so here is the version that I made with two columns, two wide columns. So to go back, this is it. But then I also made a second one, which is actually made out of 3 columns. So if I come down here, this is column 1. It says it right here. This is column 2, and this is column 3. Now on column 3 I don't have any text, I only have the image. On column 2 I have a background image, which is this one right here. And of course you have to crop these in such a way that you actually get the content that you want to be seen in the correct place. And of course you also maybe need to play around with the settings, but what you really need to do is you need to crop these backgrounds. This is an image that I placed on top, but then this is also an image, a strip background. Now this is at the center, so there's nothing very interesting going on there. And again, all of the stuff is put inside, all the text here is put inside the container boxes, and then we have a 3-part column. So let me just go back to this blank page that I made to show you this. So now I have you need to be careful to select the entire strip and not a column. And when you go to manage columns, hang on, I can just add a column, and then when I click inside that column, then I can decide whether my content is going to be on the left, the right, or the center. Now with these kinds of things where we're using text, center is probably not going to be a terribly smart way of doing this. It's probably going to be better to do it on the left and the right, so that we actually get text clusters. That's quite important. If you leave things on the center, so I'm just going to do it just to show you now. This area here with the dashed lines, that's the only place where we would be able to put text. We would not be able to bring it closer to this area here. So, and since this is on the left hand side, it's smarter to do this on the left. Then let's see, here I have it on the left already. For some reason Wix kind of anticipated what I wanted to do, and here it's on the left as well. So all of the text that I use, so I'm not going to put contain, well actually let me do it the right way. So let's do change column background, and I'm just going to use one of those decoration photos that I used, or let's see, let me use this one right here. So let me close this, or this is too much on the side, let's actually do this one here. So now I have added this here. Now with this one here, for example, I would probably go back and sorry, crop this and make this area bigger, this area here bigger and more to the left. Right now all I can do is I can just go to the settings and maybe let's see if I move it over here, over here. It's just moving a tiny little bit, but I'm not going to bother with that right now. If I were really designing this, I would make a crop that is much closer to this, and so that this area here would be more to the right, since the text is going to be on the left. The text is here, right? Yeah, it's here. So this area here would need to move over. Now what I would need to do is I would need to add a container box, which I have just attached to the column right now, but I need to make this so that it actually, and let me just I have no idea why there's a kind of like a transparency here. I don't really want that. I'm not very big on these kinds of transparencies. I like things to be kind of clear. So now what I would need to do is I would need to make this exactly the same height as the strip. And I get the smart guides, so they're already telling me that this is exactly as wide as the strip. But what you can also do is open the toolbar here and then look at the height of the strip, it's 400, and then look at your container box, it's also 400, but you can also just change this here by hand numerically and that way you get the perfect fit. Now then you take your text and you, let's see, I need to make this narrower. So this is here. Now I have attached it to the box, and now I can make it wider if I want to. And so this is the way that you place things. I mean, I'm not going to go any further here, you get the idea, but that is basically how I place the entire text into these. And then obviously I created hierarchies. I made a big headline, then a smaller subhead, paragraph entrance, all of those things that you need to be working on when you are putting together a typographic system applies here as well. You need to do all of those things as well. Now again, let's just go back here, and the nice thing is that you get the parallax scrolls on the backgrounds, and then like I said, you can also add more images if you want to, like the one that I have here for example. But now let's look at this one down here. Now here this is getting quite complicated, because the way that the system is set up, there are actually it's divided into three. The strip is divided into three, but then each strip has its own text area. So when you add those as well, then so let's just go back here. So in a three-part system, what you have is you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6. You have 6 different areas. Okay? So when you start getting 6 different areas inside one browser, then it's going to be quite smart to use visual material which is low contrast, which doesn't scream at us, which isn't very strong. And that is why I actually use these decoration images, and I kind of like made sure that all of them have the same style and that they all have kind of good horizontal alignments as well, and lots of empty areas for walls, and here as well, as you can see. So this only has 2 columns, because if I had put very crowded images here with lots of stuff going on, then this system, because it's divided into 6 as you can see, would have gotten very crowded. It would have been very difficult to actually read anything. It would have been challenging, to say the least. And then also when you are creating systems like this with typography that is meant to be read, content that is meant to be read, then yes, you could conceivably put videos in here into the strip backgrounds, but I would advise against it. I wouldn't do that, because when you have these huge big areas with videos, then and I'm just noticing that my text slipped here, so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right back and fix that. So it's this one here, it needs to become like this, and it also needs to go down. So let me just publish this real quick so that we see it properly and not like a mess like that. So let me just refresh this. Yeah, now it's looking right. So to get back to my point, now I have talked in other places, like for example here when I was talking about text and images, or text and visuals rather, I should probably rename that. I did say to you that it could be a good idea to use videos as content insets, as text insets, but then, you know, very small ones that have very little activity, so that people don't get distracted by what they're seeing, and also to have them stop at a certain point, not to have them loop all the time, that they should stop at a certain point. So I have another one here. Again, very little is going on here. Yes, it's a video, there's some motion, but when you are using videos in conjunction with text, together with text, then it's a good idea to not overdo it, to not have really big ones or background ones or things like that, which is why I'm also saying you should not be using videos in a design system like this, because they would become really enormous and they would become very, very distracting. But other than that, using these strips for columns, and let me just make this, whoops, come on, tighter here, so that we can look at it, how it looks when if we were to look at this on a very, very small browser, like a tablet or something, then it would look like this. We would still be seeing all of the text would be visible. Now if I open it, then this is over here and this is over here, but then if I narrow it down, then they actually one goes below the other, but everything is still visible. So in that sense, to repeat what I said, because it's important, this is a sort of fake responsive system, which allows you to use the entire width of your browser for your design. Now, when you do something like this, then obviously you would not be doing that on just one page, but you would be doing this on many pages, in fact all pages of your website, because this is a pretty strong design style, and it would not really work if it was just on one page and everything else looked different. So you would need to be consistent with that. And then again, like I said, if you divide your column into your strip rather, into three columns, then you need to be careful with the visual material that you add to that, because it might get very overwhelming, or you would need to have more white boxes and things and then smaller visuals. The scroll effects that I did not put any, by the way, I did not put any scroll effects on these images here for the same reason, because I felt that if I had scroll effects on so many images at once, then that would become too much. So it's this famous adage that we talked about before: less is more, less is more, less is more. And you have to remember that, especially when you're working with a 3-column system like that. And also even with this, like I said, I wouldn't put videos, I wouldn't put very overwhelming images into this as well. But other than that, this is a system that I can recommend for you to try out. You may end up making some very, very nice stuff taking this approach. So that's it, and I'll see you later.